I'm going to mute myself on other channels I'm on. There we go. My name is Jason Kirby. I'm the founder and managing director of Thunder.vc. We're a tech-enabled investment bank that uses AI to help founders identify which investors they should spend their time moving towards building a relationship with. We think in terms of venture capital and raising capital much more. We have tech, we have AI, we have all this cool stuff, but it really comes down to the relationships you build. And basically, we help companies identify not just who they should be connecting to, but how to best approach them, and making sure they're bundled up and ready to raise venture capital or debt or whatever type of capital is most appropriate for them. If you have any questions about raising capital, reach out to us at help@thunder.vc or check out our website, thunder.vc, and create an account. We do have a free version that allows you to at least see a couple of the investors that match with you, and then you can decide whether or not you want to move forward with our other offerings from there. Well, today typically we go through some decks, and I critique those decks, providing as much critical feedback as I can that will best position the startup in terms of positioning and messaging the deck to lead to a successful outcome. In this case, landing meetings, because that's ultimately what a deck is for. It's not necessarily to close an investment. It's meant to get your foot in the door and earn the right of having a meeting and getting the chance to build a relationship with the person on the other side of the table. And so all my feedback is basically coming from me wearing my VC hat in the context that I've never seen this deck. I do not know who it's coming from. And the goal basically being, is this deck compelling enough to me to want to have a meeting with this person and consider an investment? That's pretty much the premise of our offering and how I go about reviewing these decks. If you want your deck reviewed, be sure to check out the links in the descriptions. There's a Luma link, so lu.ma/Jason Kirby. You can go there and submit your decks to our weekly deck roast. We do this every single Friday at 1 o'clock. Whether we have one deck, 10 decks, whatever it is, we go through all the decks that's submitted in that week and try to provide as constructive feedback as possible. I call it a roast, but I try not to be super roasty. Try to be authentic and genuine and give as much feedback as I possibly can. So be sure to submit your deck anytime. I will do repeats as long as it's not in the same week. So if you want to make edits based on the feedback that I provide, you can resubmit it. Using the same process. So let's go ahead and jump into the deck that we'll be reviewing today. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. Keep in mind, I have not seen this deck. I have not reviewed it. I just have the title slide open, and that is it. So let's go ahead, make sure this loads up. Now we're good to go. It's loading. All right. And I'm not sure if it's loaded yet. Seems to have some connectivity issues. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. All right. So I have no context to this business, but power blocks, investing in a future free of methane. Well, that does sound nice. If I'm maybe in climate tech or something along those lines, I'm definitely at least tell me more. So that's not bad. Every time you have a title slide, you always want to make sure there's enough information to just, like a tagline or a little bit of context and your logo. Nothing much more. You don't want to have like a paragraph or anything, but you also don't want to be super cryptic. Frame my mind, frame how I should be looking at your deck with as little information as possible on your title slide. So let's go ahead and jump in. This one, wow, 36 slides. That's intimidating. Again, putting on the VC hat, I know nothing about your business. 36 slides is a big commitment. But I'm going to go through it, and we'll see what comes of it. We are removing methane using digital infrastructure. Okay. Well, clearly stating what you guys are doing. And I think it's easy to say that methane's bad, in particular in the context of global warming, I imagine. Very simple, 1 point per slide, not bad. Moving on. Okay, executive summary. I'm not a huge fan of executive summaries in the deck. If you're gonna have an executive summary, just send the executive summary. Have just the teaser. Also, this is a lot of text. Not like the bullets are very wordy. I do not want to read this. I would probably skip this in most cases if I'm reviewing this deck for investment consideration or if it came in cold to me. But for the sake of this exercise, I'll go through it. As Europe's first dedicated developer to waste to data center projects, Okay, so it seems like you're trying to coin a new term as of changing the future of methane emissions. I'm probably going to get all this information by reading the deck, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip this because it's just too much to process. First 5 million projected financial close. Yeah, so this doesn't look like much traction is established, but maybe some LOI type stuff. All right, so the problem, very clean. Methane is the most potent greenhouse gas. I would agree with that statement. Global warming potential. Yeah, so 85x's, I guess, the global warming potential compared to CO2. So it's 85 times more potent than CO2, which, okay, that's a pretty powerful statement and why probably we should focus on it. It's 33% of the overall problem, and it's increasing 10% year over year since 2000. Okay, so methane is a really bad problem, well articulated, easy to follow, good execution. Okay, some more. Methane is waste on hard to abate emission sites. So I guess these are the different types of, oh yeah, flaring. I'm familiar with flaring. And so that's easy to mitigate, I guess. I'm not sure I understand this graph entirely. It's taking me a little bit of time to kind of just process it. I'm not familiar with the structure, but I guess this is the area that you are trying to focus on. So there's methane to gas and there's methane to electricity. So this means it's being utilized or abated maybe. And here it's maybe the problem that you're addressing. So 10 to 100% of available methane on site emitted to the atmosphere through venting and flaring. It's too, yeah, because it's too far away from electricity grid, too far away from gas pipeline system, and too small to justify infrastructure investments. Okay, those are all valid, concerns. So I'm curious how you guys are going to solve this problem. Okay, so you're saying you're going to tackle that big problem. You're going to improve project economics, driving adoption of the abatement process, simplify the liability, make current flaring costs redundant, generate revenue by monetizing waste energy, and works off grid. So like I'm familiar with this kind of like methane capture and excess capture for like Bitcoin mining. So I'm curious, like, is this where this is going? Yeah, okay, exactly. So data centers, whether that's for a data center or for Bitcoin mining or something along those lines, now it's starting to make sense. So good way to position it. I like the approach of tackling greenhouse gas as opposed to we're a Bitcoin miner or just a data center modular system. Current methane treatment, so source, flare, stack, but now you're going to capture it and basically convert it to electricity and feed the data center. And this is the solution. So I've definitely seen these types of deals. Actually, I have a couple friends I'm probably going to tell this about. Advantages, reducing flaring cost to zero. Okay. Off-grid flare costs up to 50K USD per 100 kilowatt hours. Generate revenue from waste, great, and remove liability towards regulation. So this is I'm familiar with the concept. I guess I just want to know what makes these guys special at being able to do it. Creating a feature free from methane emissions as Europe's first wasted data center. Okay, I guess maybe it's not in Europe already. I know it's in the U.S. And other parts of the world. So experienced team. Like saying your experience doesn't necessarily mean your experience. Show me, don't tell me. Shortlist for 2 million UK innovate loan. Okay, so you might get a loan from the UK government. So this looks like it's idea stage. Not much traction. Market opportunity. The market is over 4 gigawatt hours or gigawatts of suitable capacity in EU alone, creating a market worth of $5 billion a year. Okay, so basically you can convert 4 gigawatts into $5 billion a year and offset 100 million tons of CO2e. I guess CO2e might be methane. I'm not familiar, but and the global market's greater than 100 billion. Okay, like I don't know. This slide could be better. I would probably just get rid of all this excess text and just kind of narrow it down to these two numbers. Like just give me the cliff notes. Again, you're overselling it or trying to explain too much. I just need to see the high level numbers. We'll figure out the details later if we have a meeting and go into a deeper discussion. Just make it easy for me to skim. I've already, in all honesty, I do this in the deck reviews. I spend way too much time on these, but I'd already been through the deck like 10 minutes ago, and I would probably not have captured as much information because some parts are not as skimmable. Some parts are good, some parts are not. Significant. Okay, so here you do it. Okay, ditch the other slide and just have this one. maybe have a little bit more context, or actually, oh, and always lead to sources on market slides. When you're pitching to investors, in the first meeting they don't care, but in that second meeting where they might want to do a little diligence, they might want to validate any of your claims, always have your references to any kind of external data that you've extracted. So like market research is obviously the number one thing to reference. Have the links in there. Make the investor's job easy. Just put like a little footnote or put it on the back of the deck. Usually I put like a link. So like I would put like this would be linked. The global methane initiative. That makes it quick, easy for me or my analyst to go and like dive in and kind of validate some of the claims and make sure we agree with the research. Saying your TAM is 100 billion is large, and I got to make sure I believe it. And are you really approaching 5 billion? Is that really what you're doing? Or are you going after more of the same? Okay, here, good. Beachhead markets, great. I like seeing beachhead markets. Okay. Okay, sure. Doesn't really like it's one thing to say it, but again, you guys haven't done it. I'm not seeing any kind of progress in any of this stuff. So you get carbon credits, hosting fee for powering batchable computers, and rewards for operating servers. So I think you're getting to the point of Bitcoin without calling it Bitcoin, especially when you call yourself Power Blocks. I'm thinking blockchain. So it sounds like you're really trying to avert the crypto aspect of this, because that's obviously going to be the easiest use case for server infrastructure in this, like to monetize. I don't see Fortune 500 or GCP, Google Cloud or AWS using this type of data infrastructure, just due to some potential variability in energy costs. Also, rolling out large enough internet fiber out there, whereas Bitcoin can be mined on a very simple like satellite internet connection. Growing value of Power Blocks projects, market drivers, blah 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 blah. Okay, so you make $160 per megawatt sold. Is that what it's articulating? So I guess you're kind of explaining this a little bit more. I'm a little fatigued to be at this point. Like I'm not seeing like what. Again, I've seen deals like this, and I've seen other companies already doing it. So I haven't seen what makes you special yet. So I'm just like hesitant. It's just another business doing this and looking for more of like more private capital, not necessarily venture scale. Again, like, okay, here's your team. Like, you just have a lot of wasted slides. You're repeating yourself, a little bit redundant, saying we have an experienced team. Like, okay, well, just put it here. Like, give me the, tell me about the team. And I usually like to see put the block of text underneath the person, just so I don't have to like try to connect the dots. Make it easy for me. I don't know. I feel really conflicted about this deck. I feel like there are some really good design elements and points of articulation, and then they lose points on like simple things like this. All right, so that's important. So he's already a partner at a methane mitigation infrastructure fund, so that's important. Okay, so that sounds like the capital is already in the bag. Led a project fundraising company securing $80 million project finance. Okay, so you guys can raise money, but then you have some experience. Not sure about advisors and what they do. I hate usually seeing advisory teams emphasize more than the founders. Usually means the founders don't have enough credibility and they're trying to leverage the names of their kind of advisory board, but also you're not giving me enough information on these people to be impressed or not. Okay, they worked in the space and they might add value, but we don't know how committed they are. So unless I know the name, usually the advisor team is irrelevant. So you have MOUs, significant traction. Like it doesn't sound like you have actual deployments. You're looking like you might have a $5 million project closed by end of year, and you're modeling a 15 to 20% IRR. So not necessarily venture scale. This is more like private equity potentially. These are the areas that you're focusing on. These would be helpful because these are areas. So if I half a megawatt, 1.5 megawatts. These seem like relatively small investments potentially. I'm not sure what the cash flow returns are and where that projections are. Given that this is so financially driven, less so much like innovation technology driven, I would probably articulate better financials. And I'm curious if this is more of a fund structure. Okay, yeah. So you're doing SPV. So you're basically okay. This is not necessarily like a startup deck, and that's makes a lot more sense now. So it's more of a fund deck. Running an SPV structure and being able to invest into each SPV, so each location. Interesting structure. These things, should make money. They should be relatively, lower risk in the grand scheme of things. How they ultimately get packaged up, I'd be curious. Economies for each SPV will be funded. So you're going to get grant funding and equity from Power Blocks, equity from, and okay, so I guess you're raising money for yourself to kind of operate, but then you're also raising money for each SPV. Be curious on who's going to be paying you for those servers and what's going in those servers. Yeah, okay. Transaction summaries, raise capital, providing investors the opportunity to help change future methane emissions. Yeah, I will give you credit, like positioning this all around like climate tech when really it's just like server, monetizing arbitrage of lower cost methane emissions that are being underutilized. And it's basically energy arbitrage, in my opinion, is what this is. Greenwashed with methane removal, which it is methane removal. So it's a good thing, but it can attract, it might attract certain type of investors, but and be curious as to who's really funding these types of projects. Okay, so here you go. You're kind of buried the lead here in terms of raising 500K. Yeah, you just bury a lot of information. You got like some good design, good layouts, but like I really have to read every single page. So it makes me feel like this was a traditional investment banker background that put this together with like a flair of like design elements, or probably a younger investment banker that left investment banking for a reason. That's my assumption. And some appendix lines. Right. I think this is not venture backable. So my thesis on this one is it's not venture backable in my opinion, but it's very backable from other types of investors. So either not like investors that focus on infrastructure, energy investors, more like hedge funds or private equity type investors. I don't necessarily seeing fitting into like the venture scale opportunity. Also, I just feel like, and maybe I missed it because there's just so much information here, but I don't really know who's using the servers and what, like, who's paying for the servers. Is that part of this project or not? I see the whole energy capture, methane reduction type strategy here, but I don't necessarily see where this is going as far as who's in these modular and movable structures, as far as who's using the compute power. And so I'd be really curious as if it's just like Bitcoin mining or something, or if it's actual functional infrastructure and how that structures. So I just feel like this should have been a much easier layup, and especially using 36 slides, I figured it would be a lot easier to take away that entire use case. Unless it's not important, unless that's like a no-brainer or something, I don't know. But I'll give this one like a 3 to 4 on our scale of 5. If you don't know the scale, you can look at the description of the event. I think it's fundable, but not from a venture perspective. And I think there needs to be some language in here that articulates a little bit better like the hosting fee, like who are you hosting and how much are they paying and what's that cost and why will they host with you? So industrial customers. So I don't know what industrial customers mean. I don't know if you even do you have those people? Like if you build it, where you just going to magically have servers there day one, makes things a little bit complicated. And, hypothetically, could you be more profitable if you did mining, Bitcoin mining or crypto mining or something along those lines, which is more of the projects that I see follow this framework. So I'd be curious to learn what you're doing on this front for, the hosting side, which there's just too much to read to find out, but that's kind of my take. I think there's some good elements to this deck, good elements to the story, just a different type of investor that will fund it. That's a little outside of my scope, but that's a wrap for the review portion. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen real quick. Let's see if there's any last minute effort. No. So basically, that's the review for today. If you are interested in having your deck review and getting some feedback on how you can identify what's missing in your deck, what pieces could be improved, or are you on the mark or off the mark? I typically will see a good amount of like 3 and 4s. I've seen them given a couple 5s in the past episodes. There's also lots of 0s, 1s, and 2s that just I don't feel put the effort in, or just way too early, or didn't do the right design work. But just putting this out there, anyone that ever has questions about their deck that maybe doesn't want to do this publicly, because obviously it's it can be difficult to put out your deck in public and get feedback. You can always message me. You can join our Slack community as a founder. We got hundreds of founders in there that I try to share content with and support and answer the questions and DMs. You're always welcome to join that Slack community. If you're not a member already, just sign up on thunder.vc. You'll get an invite to join the Slack community. And you're always welcome to ask me questions as well as other founders in the community. Appreciate those that watched us live and appreciate anyone that's watching us in the recording. And until next week, again, we do this every single Friday at 1 p.m. If we have decks, I review them. So just keep submitting them. If you want them deck re-reviewed, go ahead and resubmit it. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off. But appreciate the crew here that submitted their deck, Andreas and Rahul. Thanks for being bold and sharing your deck. Much appreciated. Hopefully this feedback was valuable to you. If it was, let me know. If it wasn't, let me know. And I'll see you guys next week.